Hey everybody, as you hear, I'm here to talk about the cover preview. In fact, I'll provide a link to it down below, of 239. That's right, 239, Sonic Universe 40, I believe, or 41, I can't really think of it right now, has been released. That's right. But here's what's funny. I think it's 40 or 41, I can't really know, I gotta look again, but I'll provide the links to them. But basically, 239 has been released. The cover for it. The cover for the second part of Secret Freedom Fighters has been released. In fact, or should I say, covers. That's right, covers. And here's what I mean. Here's what I mean, folks. The cover for 239, the description that goes with it is this. It's a two-part story from what we understand. And the description of it's Team Fighters versus Team Metal. In other words, Sonic, Amy, and Tails, and possibly Knuckles, versus Team Metal, consisting of Sally, Mecha Sally, in her mecha form, Metal Knuckles, Metal Tails, and Metal Sonic. Now, with that said, the other one is the second part. Now, the description given to the second part of Secret Freedom Fighters, the other Silver Arc, basically describes something. Basically, I'm gonna you'll see you'll see it in the description box with the link. Well, when you click on the link in the description box, you'll see it. Heck, if I have enough room, I'll put it in the description box. But according to the description, Nagus is trying to reshape the world at his whim. That's right. But now, I'm not totally correct about it, but I think that's what it said in the description somewhere, that he was totally going to try to reshape the world. So yeah, we got another villain trying to do what Eggman tried to do beforehand. Now, speaking of Eggman, 239, again, is basically described as Elizus, even though he's not king right now, possibly being targeted for assassination by his own sister, Sally, in her mecha form. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why would Ian do this kind of a story part? Why would he put this kind of situation in a two-parter in this arc, and he's not even a king? Elizus is not even... Well, according to the description, Eggman still looks at him as, a symbol of hope. So, best way to do is to try to take him out. Now, you might see in the description that I also want to talk a bit about 240. Because seeing as though this ties into 240, it makes you wonder exactly how this is all going to come about. Well, I'll tell you what I feel is going to happen. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel there's a few things, something's going to happen, not in 39, but in the second part, 240, that follows. Now, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Then Ian got us. Give him credit for that if he does. And he probably will. But it's just my opinion as a fan. But this is what I feel is going to happen. Now, we all know that after a lengthy amount of time, when a character turns bad, that usually, if it's a long, lengthy amount of time, that time frame usually ranges from possibly 5 to 12. And the in-between number for that would probably be 7 or 10. Now, on average in comic books, An event or a situation usually lasts about 10 issues. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. The Iron Dominion arc, essentially, if you take away the last panel in 200, or the last page in 200, essentially lasted 10 issues. The Implage took place in 212. But in the main comic, it lasted for about 10 issues. And you could say, well, Brian, if you add in Journey to the East and Sonic Universe, that's essentially 14 issues altogether. I'm not denying that. But from a main comic standpoint, 10 issues was the length of the Iron Dominion saga. Now you sit there and you probably ask yourself, well, Brian, what do you mean by that? What does this have to do with anything? Well, I'm not saying I'm correct, and I'm not saying I'm wrong, and I'm not saying, heck, I got half right and I got half wrong. I'm just saying that I find it kind of ironic that this two-parter, if it is a two-parter, could conclude in the 10th issue in which Sally is roboticized. Now you might say to yourself, well, Brian, just like with the beginning of the Iron Dominion arc, her robotization didn't really start till 231. Now that might be true, which means whether or not this is a 2 to 3 or maybe 4-parter, then so be it. But I think it's 2 parts. Now again, you might say to yourself, you say, well, Brian, that doesn't make sense. That actually makes it 9 issues instead of 10. Maybe, maybe not. We're not really sure, but I'm pretty much on the level that I'm pretty much on the level, if you will, that we could see something coming out of this. Because you got to think about it this way. Ian Flynn, after he does this we're assuming 2-part story, assuming 2-part story, that he'll have 9 issues to go to 250. So the question will be, how will he count down to that 250th issue? Well, the only assumption, and this isn't assuming, is he has to give them he has to give the Freedom Fighters some kind of momentum. He's got to give them something to build for the next 9 months on. And even if it means, and some of you may not agree with this, even if it means Sally's restored, but only through mind, not body, then that's at least that's kind of a moral bittersweet victory. Because she'll be back on the side, she just won't be flesh and blood yet. And that could help continuously do a countdown. Now you might say to yourself, well, Brian, Eggman made sure she wasn't going to be free-willed. She wouldn't get her free will back because he modified her. Did he modify her to do it? Did he modify and weaponize her to do that, to resist having her free will restored? Or was it the power ring he inserted in her to make sure she wasn't restored? Because when you look at the more recent 39 issue of Sonic Universe, Monkey Kong, Ken Kong, whatever you want to call him, gave up his ring to save her. Now, his ring, if you want to look at it from one standpoint, was never modified. It's a regular power ring. Now, unless her body was weaponized and modified to resist the free will, then that's another story. But I seriously don't think so. I seriously think Ian realizes that he's going to get, by the time 240 comes out, by the time this 2-part thing ends, or whatever, how many parts he puts it in, ends, that he's going to be very close to 250. And again, he's got to give the good guys some momentum. So, my assumption, my prediction is this 2-parter that starts in 239, this 2-part, 3-part, whatever how many parts it is, that starts in 239, I think it's probably going to be 2 parts, maybe 3, I'm not sure. I think he's going to have a bittersweet. He's going to have some kind of a moral victory, give him some kind of momentum, and maybe have a restoration. Not trying to read too much into it. It's just my opinion. It's just my speculation and assumption. So, tell me what you guys think down below, and I'll talk to you all later.